Battletech Jihad Turning Points, Tharkad, by Catalyst Games Labs, read by Shrapnel. Wild Things.
Ruins of the Triad, Tharkad City, Tharkad, Lyran Alliance, 10th of January, 3072.
Wild, primal, feral, hunted. For years, Sergeant Todd Baker felt that way. Not even the simplest of actions, armoured feet taking steps in the deep snow, hearing the soft crunch picked up by his external sensors, could claw his mind away from remembering all the animalistic emotions he'd felt for the past 5 years. He and his ragtag band of armoured infantry had long since numbed most of their human instincts, and even their sensory inputs. Not even the stench of sweat and filth from staying in their Rottweiler battlesuits registered in their reddened, blotchy nose. Always worrying about a Blakist hunter-killer team attacking, his men ate, slept, and defecated in their machines, coming out just to swap power packs and put the used ones on the chargers. This must be how proto-mech pilots feel. He had heard stories about those clan soldiers, with a connection and interface so integral to their machine, they often would refuse to leave them unless forced. But for Baker's team, the need to stay in was more about survival than addiction. Afraid to light campfires and use space heaters, they stayed inside to gain shelter from the Tharkad cold. Always running, avoiding combat whenever possible, not even stopping to really survey the land to figure out where they would be if Tharkad was still in one piece. Not that there was much to see on the outside. Contact with people outside his 10 armoured soldiers was sporadic during the best of times. It had been 3 weeks since they had last spotted non-robes. A band of civilians foraging for food, not wanting to get near Baker's men for fear they would bring the Blake's wrath upon them. And 2 months since they had picked up any sort of resistance radio traffic. Hell, his men during one of their rare involved conversations debated whether or not their former Archon Peter Steiner Davian was free or captured, or even if he was alive or dead. We may be all that's left of the Lyran military on Tharkad. For all we know, maybe the only Lyran military left, period. It was easy to fall into such hyperbole. Baker sometimes pondered giving up and turning himself into the Blakist hounds that had been on their trail for months. Almost gave in more than once, but the animalistic instinct to survive overwhelmed his mental and emotional fatigue, given strength by fear. Fear of what they might do to him after they had him. Fear of torture, brainwashing, and other unspeakable things. But now he felt something else. Something he'd not been able to feel until this point. Not until the word came that the heavens were not to be feared anymore. Not until their radio receivers picked up the voice. Broadcast on all channels and frequencies yesterday, overpowering even the constant jabber of Blakist propaganda. The voice, with a German accent, that he would have recognised from holovid news reports, even if it didn't announce its identity.
This is Adam Steiner, Archon of the Lyran Alliance. We have come to reclaim our system. You are to stand down and surrender to our authority. Woe to those who do not.
Ragnarok. But this time, not for us. He eyed the 2 squads of snow-white infantrymen, huddled around the decrepit arm of Zeus, destroyed years ago, but deliberately left by the robes as a sign of futile resistance. And he felt an emotion he'd been waiting to feel for quite some time. 6 unarmoured soldiers backed up by 6 light power armoured suits. His squad may be the only Lyran military left on Tharkad, but Todd knew the robes would put up a fight when the Archon landed. Even in his unit's state, it was his duty to take as much pressure off the relief force as possible. And finally, grinning wolfishly, he felt a long, absent clawing, tearing sensation in his chest. He finally felt unleashed. They treated us like animals all these years, like wild dogs to be hunted for sport. But be careful what you wish for, because now the wild dogs are hunting you. Todd opened up the mic, his voice a deep, gravelly growl.
Take 'em. Make 'em hurt.
He pushed his speed as fast as he could, bounding towards the Blakists, almost willing them not to do anything. Eventually, they started to rise up out of their positions as they realized their trap was sprung on themselves. Their weapons, hastily aimed, missed most of the Lyrans. Those scattered shots from personal weapons that did hit were ineffective against his suit's armor. The support weapons the light suits were manning were his biggest tactical worry, but for now, all he wanted was to make contact. His last bound was the highest and the longest, forelegs reaching out like arms, slamming into the smaller of the Blakist troops. Having hundreds of kilograms of weight and momentum on his side, his primary target toppled over like an unsteady stack of children's building blocks, while the others were brushed away, falling to the wayside for his comrades to deal with. His attempt to stop on slick ice and the snow-covered surface failed. He rode the soldier underneath, sliding back several meters. The Blakist was screaming something as Todd looked on, probably out of pain as his shoulders were crushed beyond recognition under the weight of the Rottweiler's feet. Todd smiled at the sight of his prey beneath him. Vicious snarls and joyous whoops over his comm channel took his attention away from the enemy's screams beneath him. A cursory glance at his screen showed him his men. Some had troopers pinned on the ground like him. Others simply rammed their targets into the mangled metal of the cold carcass of the Zeus. His 4 slower Fenrir were using the distraction of the initial charge to try and cut down the support crews before they had a chance to bring their heavy weapons to bear. He knew more Blakists were inbound. At least another half-dozen heavier suits. And his men's power packs were almost depleted, silencing his prey's screams with a heavy metal claw to the face as he stepped forward. Todd wanted them there, wishing them to witness what they had sown being reaped by their comrades, to witness that his thirst for revenge had only just begun. Hello everyone, this is Shrapnel. Don't forget, if you like this story, give us a like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment below and I'll get back to you. And always remember, free Tharkad!